Afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. Attorney seeking review of compensation package for one Don gang trial. Constitutionality of the Disaster Risk Management Act could be challenged. In sports, more injuries to Reggae Boy squad ahead of World Cup qualifiers. I'm Giovanni Dennis and here are the details. At least one attorney involved in the One Don gang trial has written to the Justice Ministry asking for a review of the compensation package for the lawyers involved in the matter. In an interview with TVJ News, Attorney-at-Law Alexander Shaw explained that the current compensation package for the trial is simply not enough. Sandy Williams reports.
According to attorney Alexander Shaw, the maximum sum senior attorneys can be paid is $1.2 million, while the cap for junior attorneys is $800,000. Mr. Shaw says this compensation package for defense lawyers in the One Don gang trial is exploitative. He argues that there was no discussion regarding how much attorneys would be paid before the trial date was set. He adds that weeks before the plea and case management, which is a pre-trial before the actual trial, the attorneys had requested a meeting to discuss remuneration.
We find it very strange that the meeting came after the hearing date.
Mr. Shaw argues that the One Don gang trial could extend beyond the Michaelmas term. The One Don gang trial has been postponed until October 19 as two of the defendants have contracted COVID-19. Given the current compensation package, he says attorneys will find it hard to cover their expenses.
Traveling expenses, lunch, printing, and the parking, because we have to be in court literally every day. And persons who live outside of Kingston will experience paying toll and, other traveling expenses. So we pretty much want whatever we're getting to be sufficient enough to not just be able to deal with our traveling and lunch expenses, but other administrative expenses that may come along the way.
In the meantime, Mr. Shaw says he has reached out to Justice Minister Delroy Chuck for assistance in resolving the matter.
We have written to the minister asking for a meeting so that we can discuss increases or discuss further consideration because, the trial is in full swing and we can't stop that. And we don't, intend to stop that, but at the very least, we don't want to find ourselves bankrupt, in the end.
Sandy Williams, TVJ News.
In the meantime, Justice Minister Delroy Chuck has conceded that legal aid fees paid to attorneys are low and pointed out that a review of the fees was underway. In Parliament last Tuesday, Mr. Chuck proposed changes to the legal aid amendment regulations, which also set out new legal aid fees to be paid to attorneys. Here's what he said.
Matters, Madam Speaker, such as murder, the original fees for senior counsel was $135,000. We have doubled it to $270,000, a flat sum. The junior attorneys was $90,000. We have doubled it to $180,000. And it's the same, Madam Speaker, for non-capital murder, manslaughter, lesser fees for firearm offences, senior counsel $180,000, junior counsel $130,000. In the parish courts for fraud offences, it's $90,000, and for junior counsel, $60,000. For fraud cases, senior counsel $120,000, junior counsel $90,000.
To other news, the constitutionality of the Disaster Risk Management Act could be challenged. The clearest warning comes from Attorney-at-Law Isaac Buchanan. O'Shane Masters has more.
As the government seeks to reduce the number of COVID-19 cases across the island, they might have another battle on their hands. However, it will be a legal one. Attorney-at-Law Isaac Buchanan on Monday gave the clearest indication at the Brownstone Parish Court that the legality of the Disaster Risk Management Act, DRMA, will be challenged.
It is perhaps time that the DRMA is put to the Constitutional Court, and certainly if the Column brothers are minded, they would be perfect complainants in terms of testing the constitutionality of its use and its operation in this pandemic.
The position of Mr. Buchanan comes as his clients, Justine and Javon Callum, were charged with breaching the curfew orders on Saturday night, August 7, in Brownstone, St. Anne. The brothers admitted to being in the Brownstone Square after the curfew hour had begun. They'd been waiting for transportation to go home and explained that to the police when they were approached. On Monday, when the case came up at the parish court before acting parish judge Michelle Salmon, Mr. Buchanan urged the judge to be lenient on his clients as they were treated badly on the night in question. The brothers were each fined $25,000 for breaches of the DRMA.
The DRMA continues to turn ordinary men and women into criminals, and it is oppressive. It has the feel of extortion on persons who otherwise don't have the funds. The judge in this instance took judicial notice of the circumstances of the case. Her hands were tied because it is a strict liability offense.
As it relates to his client's complaints against the police, Mr. Buchanan says a formal report will be filed with the Independent Commission of Investigations, INDICOM. O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
To a TVJ News update on farmers in Heartland St. Catherine who are still taking issue with the leasing of lands for them to farm. But added to that is the challenge of poor road conditions that's making it harder for them to take their goods to market. Krista Campbell has this update.
Rain is usually good news for farmers, but in Heartland St. Catherine, it makes already bad farm roads worse. And getting produce out of the farms to markets becomes a very difficult feat.
When we pick 3 times a week, I see we have a cat on the bicycle or on the head. Because sometimes not even bicycle can go through mud, you know. So we have to put it on our head, see we and carry out like what you say my colleague are going with. 70 pounds, 90 pounds, and then we are there.
I plant a piece of cucumber that you take over there. And like when I reply, like 3,000 pounds, if you see we are idiot, 1 pound, 1 little piece of bicycle. You understand what we are saying? What we are saying now, if we have car, we could have come down here now. But if we use the tractor and carry in the mud time now, no car can come back down here again.
And that's just one of the farmers' issues. 9 months after we last visited them, they say there's still no concrete resolution to the challenge of leasing lands to farm.
No, nobody no come to it. Apart from them to visit one time and say we are okay. But we don't know what the word okay means still, you know.
Now in January, former Agriculture Minister Floyd Green had toured the area and gave a deadline for a set amount of land to be leased to the farmers. But the farmers are taking issue with the lands they've been given and how the leasing is being done.
But you have people just come and get land. And I got to tell us saying get 30 acre for plant, 200 acre for plant cotton. And we have a couple of acres. And no one hear nothing about a little thing. If you lease a piece of land to somebody, you can't go in the woodland now and you give a man a piece to push off already. We have to go look back where we don't have money. If you go push 100 and odd acres, that's all left. And then you have over here, so where them are put on for somebody, then say a prison land. And we know that Jamaica will never build a next prison.
Now, despite that, Horace Williams contends the farmers have been making the most of what lands they've been given.
Me have about 2.5 okra and me have 4 acres sorrel. Me have sweet potato, because integrated farming me do. So if me farm 5 acre land, me do more than 15 acre. Because me plant more than 3 crops.
He says he's hopeful that despite a recent change in Agriculture Minister, the government will honour its promises of better farm roads and other improvements to the sector. Krista Campbell, TVJ News.
And it's now time for a break here on the Midday News, but please stay with us. We'll have much more when you return. Welcome back. We're continuing the news. The Western Region Blood Bank is yet to find a fixed site where persons can go and donate blood. Organizer at the blood bank, Odane Black, complained that since COVID-19, persons are afraid to go to the hospitals to donate blood. Mr. Black says at the moment, based on the logistics, the hospitals are the only sites fully equipped for this to be done.
At present, no. At present, we are still fixed within the hospital. We're still fixed attached to the hospital setting. It would be nice. It's just to find where that's more convenient. That would mean that we'll be able to meet the COVID protocols, which means that we keep the bed space 6 feet apart, and so forth. But at this point in time, we don't have any convenient location for that purpose that we could, so the best basis or a fixed site. The fixed site have all different facilities that we would need, and we've tweaked it to make sure that to maintain or to adhere to the COVID protocols as well.
But Mr. Black says they are still working to get a fixed site to avoid this challenge in the future.
Any other site we are yet to determine for a long-term basis. Because if anything at all, it would be more like for an activity which that would not solve the problem. We need a fixed site. That would mean we need a fixed space. That would be for a prolonged period. At this point in time, there is nothing convenient as yet.
The UN Children's Agency, UNICEF, has detailed the extent of the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on the mental health of children and young people. UNICEF has warned that the impacts of COVID-19 on the mental health of children could be felt for many years to come. Now, this follows preliminary findings from a UNICEF-backed study of children and adults in 21 countries, including Latin America and the Caribbean. On average, 1 in 5 young people said they often feel depressed or have little interest in doing things. In the report titled "The State of the World's Children," UNICEF said even before the crisis, children and youth were already carrying the burden of mental health conditions and without significant investment in addressing them. It said globally, more than 1 in 7 adolescents aged 10 to 19 years is estimated to live with a diagnosed mental disorder, while almost 46,000 die annually from suicide, which is among the top 5 causes of death for this demographic. UNICEF has recommended urgent investment in all sectors, not just health, and scaling up evidence-based interventions, including parenting programs that promote responsive and nurturing caregiving. The country's COVID-19 positivity rate has increased by 10.2% over the last 24 hours. On Monday, Jamaica recorded a 26% positivity rate, up from Sunday's 15.8%. 249 new COVID-19 cases are reported in the last 24 hours, increasing the overall case count to 85,163. Meanwhile, 14 more people have died from the virus between September 5 and October 3. The death toll now stands at 1,936. 551 people are hospitalized with the respiratory illness. 34 patients are critically ill, while 67 are severely ill. 134 more people have recovered from COVID-19, pushing the recovery count to 53,504. There are 29,109 active cases on the island. Today is the deadline given by a parish judge for the management of the R Hotel in Kingston to hand over CCTV footage of former Agriculture Minister Floyd Green and other individuals holding a party on the property during a no-movement day last month. The hotel's attorney, Peter Champagny, told TVJ News that the material will be handed over.
I can confirm that yesterday my client, the R Hotel, received an amended order, production order, for the CCTV footage to be handed over, and this should take place today.
The judge made the order on Friday when the parties appeared in court. Mr. Green resigned as a minister on September 15 after a video was circulated on social media showing at least 13 persons closely gathered at the party without face masks. Last week, Deputy Commissioner in charge of crime, Fitz Bailey, said the police might not be able to bring charges against Mr. Green because of recent changes to the Disaster Risk Management Act. DCP Bailey said an amendment made to the law on August 11 gives unconditional exemption for certain categories. The island's teachers are yet to receive a written offer from the Finance Ministry in response to its wage claims. The teachers last year rejected the government's 2.5% wage increase.
Well, we're still waiting to be called by the Ministry of Finance and Public Service. From our last interaction in early September, we have not had any dialogue since then. So we're still waiting on our response from the ministry because we had asked for them to put the offer offers that they presented to us, which was 3%. Put it in writing, and to date we have not yet received same.
And is that 3% something that you think our teachers would accept?
Well, it depends. If they give us at a point when we are highly intoxicated. But if our cognitive space is operating properly, then obviously not.
And it's now time for the Business Minute.
In the world of business, multinational travel and tourism company TUI has kept Jamaica on an updated list of cancelled holiday destinations after the UK's travel rules changed on Monday. Trips to Jamaica will continue to be suspended until at least October 16. TUI flights also remain suspended until October 21 to other countries including Cuba, Dominican Republic, and Mexico. New simplified travel rules came into force in the UK on Monday. The traffic light system has now been replaced by a single red list. The green and amber lists have been scrapped. The majority of fully vaccinated travelers arriving from non-red list countries will no longer have to take a test before setting off for the UK. The Jamaica Manufacturers and Exporters Association, JMEA, is calling for the Bank of Jamaica to reconsider the decision to increase its policy interest rate to 1.5%. The JMEA says the decision is misguided and will fail to stabilize the exchange rate or inflation. It says the BOJ's expectation that the increase will dampen inflation expectations is unjustified. And that's it for the Business Minute. I'm Shane Masters.
Now for the top regional and international stories, here's Sandy Williams.
Was pronounced dead on arrival. The minister said that a senior team from the Ministry of Health, including senior pathologist Dr. Nihal Singh, is scheduled to travel to Moruca to determine the cause of death. Further afield, AstraZeneca has filed an emergency use authorization in the U.S. for its COVID-19 antibody therapy. The company says it prevents symptomatic COVID-19, particularly among those who don't get an immune response from vaccination. Based on its trials, the drug reduced the risk of symptoms by 77%. More data on the treatment is expected later this year. If granted by the Food and Drug Administration, it would be the first long-acting antibody combination to receive emergency use authorization. AstraZeneca says it is still discussing supply agreements with the U.S. and governments around the world. And that's it for the top regional and international stories.
And we now head to a quick break. When we come back, Simon Preston will have the Midday Sports.
Welcome back. It's now time for Midday Sports. I'm Simon Preston. Reggae Boys defender Liam Moore and midfielder Daniel Johnson have been ruled out of Jamaica's upcoming games in the World Cup qualifiers due to injury. Despite playing 90 minutes in Reading's 1-0 win over Cardiff City on the weekend, central defender Liam Moore will not be making the trip across the Atlantic as he did not pass the fitness test to travel. Central midfielder Daniel Johnson will also be staying put in England as he starts his recovery for an ankle injury he picked up against Queen's Park Rangers recently. 18 members of the squad have already arrived in camp in Austin, Texas. West Ham United forward Mikel Antonio, Birmingham Legion's Junior Flemings, and Cavaliers' Jamoy Topi, who is a replacement in the squad for Ethan Pinnock, are all scheduled to arrive in camp later today. Anthony Grant will link up with the Jamaican squad on Friday for their home match against Canada on Sunday. The Reggae Boys will face the Americans on October 7 in Austin, Texas. To cricket we go now, as former Jamaica and West Indies cricketer Marlon Samuels will formally contest recent charges brought against him by cricket's world governing body, the ICC, for breaches of their anti-corruption code. Samuels, who played international cricket from 2000 to 2018, was charged by the ICC on behalf of the Emirates Cricket Board in late September for breaching 4 codes of their anti-corruption code during his participation in the 2019 T10 League. He was given a time period of 14 days to respond to the charges. In a letter obtained by TVJ Sports recently, Samuels' legal team, led by Queen's Counsel Ian Wilkinson, has written to the ICC General Counsel Jonathan Hall to deny the charges brought against him and has also requested written or recorded statements and documents as they seek to expedite the matter on behalf of their client. The Mumbai Indians defeated the Rajasthan Royals by 8 wickets in match 51 of the Indian Premier League in Sharjah today. Batting first, the Royals were restricted to 90 for 9 off their 20 overs. West Indian Evan Lewis top scored with 24 for the Royals, while Nathan Courtenay took 4 for 14 for Mumbai. In reply, Mumbai raced to their target with 70 balls to spare, thanks to Ishan Kishan, who top scored with 50 not out. The playoffs of the IPL are slated to bowl off on October 10. And finally this afternoon, Jamaican basketballer Nick Richards and the Charlotte Hornets picked up their first win in pre-season ahead of the 2021-2022 NBA season after recording a 113-97 win over the Oklahoma City Thunder on Monday. The 23-year-old tallied 3 points, 5 rebounds and 1 assist. Richards and the Hornets will play their second preseason game on Thursday against the Memphis Grizzlies. The 2021-2022 season of the NBA is slated to tip off on October 19. And that is it for your Midday Sports Report. I'm Simon Preston. Giovanni, it is over to you.
Thanks so much, Simon. And that's it for the Midday News. I'm Giovanni Dennis. Join us at 7 for Primetime News. On behalf of the news, sports and production teams, have a good afternoon.